Did you know that they were referring to us Trump supporters as cult members? Now, do you remember when we first started coming out, Middle America and Blue Collar America, and we started showing support for Trump? They laughed at us.
He might be leading the Republican ticket.
Next, I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on.
And then when we turned up at the polling stations and actually got him elected, then they decided to call us some names.
His speech, which was a cry from the white nationalist gut.
This was a white lash.
The last gasp of a kind of shrinking pool, particularly of white Christian voters.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
And then 3 years into it, when they still can't defeat us, then they start calling us cult members.
Why don't we just start to say it has devolved into a cult? Primary voters in the Republican Party have devolved into a Trumpist cult.
I mean, the GOP is becoming like a cult.
It's becoming a cultish thing, isn't it?
I think cult may not even be strong enough as a phrase, Brooke.
Control and cult expert Stephen Hassan has a theory laid out in his new book that Trump is essentially a cult leader.
Become almost cult-like in its support of Trump. We have now seen the word cult used 3 times in the past 2 days.
It's been popping up more and more. Think back to 2 weeks ago on this program, Anthony Scaramucci talked about his claim that Trump supporters are in a cult. Just last week, Dan Rather said he thinks support for Trump seems increasingly cultish. And this weekend in the Washington Post, Trump critic and Republican strategist John Weaver said the GOP is not a party anymore in the traditional sense. It's a cult.
Cult is a very strong but a very good word in this case.
Let me make sure I got this right. If I do exactly what you tell me to do and I believe exactly like you tell me to believe, then I am not in a cult. But if I use critical thinking and deductive reasoning and don't do what you tell me to do, then I am in a cult. Next!
It is almost like a dear leader situation. It's like a cult of personality.
Cultish devotion.
Or the cult.
The destructive cult.
You say the president is using mind control.
Become a cult.
You yourself are in a cult.
That's a cult.
It is frightening to hear a cult expert say that you see all these signs.
President Trump isn't just overtaking the GOP. He's turning it into something that resembles a cult.
Did he say mind control? Is that where you do your own research and read your own shit and figure out your own conclusions on your own? You refuse to let somebody spoon feed you their bullshit?
If enough Republican voters have a cult-like view of President Trump,
The behaviors that I'm seeing here, and this is anecdotal, are very similar to the way that ISIS members are.
He briefly worked for President Trump, and now he says Trump's supporters are a cult.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Trump supporters belong to a cult, and maybe some of those Fox commentators then belong to the cult.
Showing that there's this huge divide between sort of uneducated whites and minorities and educated whites.
Do you want to know what we call people like that in my neck of the woods? Assholes. People that don't have a clue that farmers and ranchers have a 4-year degree in agribusiness, and there is a lot of science and a lot of chemistry involved in raising cattle and your fruits and your vegetables. Let's see what some real cult leaders look like.
But at the end of the book, you write, and I'm going to quote you here, cult leaders do not relinquish power. If Trump runs again and is not reelected in 2020, he might claim that the election was rigged. Who knows?
I wonder what happens to cult leaders when they get dethroned and don't get to carry that crown anymore. I wonder if they become assholes in the general public.
I'm now back to being an activist citizen and part of the resistance.
Exactly what are you resisting, Hillary? Resisting the fact that half of America couldn't stand your funky ass? Entitled, elite, insulting, squish people under your feet ass? You're corrupt, funky, stinky ass? I wonder if actual cult followers just parrot what their leader tells them to.
The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic,
racist, xenophobe, misogynist, just in the White House.
Been such a misogynist, a bigot, a racist, a narcissist person.
Damn, y'all remember this election night when those cult members were so distraught that Queen Hillary did not make it to the White House.
The scene here is so different than it was a few hours ago when people were happy and relaxed. There are people who are just in shock.
On that, do you remember saying the following? Liberals tend to cluster more. Conservatives, especially very conservative people, tend to spread out more, perhaps because they don't even want to be around themselves.
Would you like to know who that piece of shit is? That is a Harvard law professor that is a staunch Hillary supporter, donated lots of money to the Democratic campaign and the Hillary campaign, and she was guaranteed an appointment of some kind of judgeship if Hillary was elected. You think she's a little pissed off that the Donald actually did win the election? And let's not forget for one of these top echelon officials of the FBI had to say after Trump was elected, and how they have worked hard to unseat this president ever since us blue-collar, working-class Americans put him in the office.
Peter Strzok says, just went to a Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support.
It's become pretty damn clear that that 2016 election didn't teach them a damn thing. They didn't learn a damn thing.
Just went to a Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support. My view, you want to know what's really going on here? You want to know why the counterintelligence investigation really happened? You want to know why we're all really sitting here today? That's why, right there, is because an unelected bureaucrat, an unelected official in this government who clearly has open disdain, if not outright hatred, for Trump voters.
I want me some Walmart. Shit, roll up in there at 2 o'clock in the morning and get you a loaf of bread and a candy bar. It don't get any better than that in America.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
I'm supposed to feel sorry for that bitch. I don't.
What she said, she thinks just like I do.
The accusation against the Clinton, Secretary Clinton, was that she set a private server up somewhere in her house and classified information was on it to avoid the disclosure requirements and the transparency requirements required of being Secretary of State.
Oh, hell no! Fellow blue-collar, working-class, middle Americans, we're all in this together. I'm going to wrap my video up by saying this. Mainstream media is pissed off that we did not vote the way that they told us to vote. Liberals are pissed off that we had the audacity to participate in their elections and that we won't get on board with their socialist communist agenda. And politicians are pissed off that we had the nerve to take away some of their power because they're going to import all these people that shouldn't even be in America to begin with and give them voting rights. So I want to wrap it up by saying this. All aboard! Woo, woo. And here's for Trump 2020, and all the rest of you can kiss my American ass.
Can I ask you, if you won all the money, what would you do with it?
Bunch of hookers and cocaine.
Did you really snatch an 86-year-old woman's purse?
She wants to hurt me. And the bitch don't even know me. I hope that they beat her ass. Some of the women in prison beat her ass every day for long as she's in there.
Some people might say that's harsh.
Well, so what she did to me was even worse.
You're all right.
That God had an angel over us. And that's what I see. God is good.
And all the rest of you can kiss my American ass.